What type of molecules are enzymes? Protein molecules. Which of the following best describes a section that divides the body into equal upper and lower portions? A. Coronal. B. Transverse. C. Oblique. D. Median. Transverse. Where is cerebrospinal fluid found? Brain, ventricles, and spinal cord. What bones support the weight of the body and facilitate movement? Long bones. What type of chemical bond connects the oxygen and hydrogen atoms in a molecule of water? Covalent bond. Which of the following terms is alternatively called a voice box? A. Uvula. B. Trachea. C. Larynx. D. Pharynx. Larynx. What makes up the nervous system? Central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. The majority of nutrient absorption occurs in the small intestine. Once blood has been oxygenated, it travels through the pulmonary veins, through the left atrium, and then through the blank before entering the left ventricle. A. Tricuspid valve. B. Mitral valve. C. Pulmonary arteries. D. Aorta. Mitral valve. What does the parasympathetic nervous system do? Lowers heart rate, dilates blood vessel, and increases secretion in the digestive system. What process should DNA within cell undergo before cell replication? Replication, so daughter cells can have the same amount of DNA material after cell division. What is urea? A waste product formed in the liver. The blood transports it to the kidneys where it is removed. How to read the volume in a graduated cylinder. Look at where the meniscus is formed by the liquid and read at the bottom of the meniscus. What does a catalyst do to a reaction? A catalyst lowers the activation energy needed to start the reaction. What is the order of normal blood flow through the heart? Right atria, right ventricle, lungs, left atria, left ventricle, body. What does the sympathetic nervous system do? Autonomic nervous system opposes the parasympathetic nervous system. A section that separates the body into right and left portions would be a midsagital. What are Mendel's laws? Alleles segregate individually to gametes. Genes do not influence each other with regard to the sorting of alleles into gametes. Every possible combination of alleles for every gene is equally likely to occur. One allele masks the expression of another allele at the same locus. What is a phenotype? Physical and visible characteristics. Where does the exchange of O2 and CO2 occur? Alveoli. What is the function of the Bartholin's glands? Lubrication for vagina. Where is ammonia processed? Much of the NH3 production occurs in the hepatocytes of the liver, where it's broken down into urea. What does muscle tissue do? Contracts to cause movement. What bones provide protection for internal organs and a point of attachment for the muscles? Irregular. What makes up immune system? Lymphatic system, spleen, tonsils, thymus, and bone marrow. Which of the following cannot exist in RNA? A. uracil. B. thymine. C. cytosine. D. guanine. Thymine. What is alpha insulin? Releases glucagon and increase blood sugar levels. Which of the following can be found in the dorsal cavity of the body? A. Heart, B. Testes, C. Stomach, D. Spine. Spine. Which division of the nervous system facilitates muscle contraction? A. Involuntary division, B. Somatic division, C. Visceral division, D. Autonomic division. Somatic division. The two criteria for classifying epithelial tissue are cell layers and blank. Which of the following completes the sentence above? A. Cell composition, B. Cell absorption, C. Cell shape, D. Cell stratification. Cell shape. What is the name of a condition where the heart rate is 118 bpm? Tachycardia. Where does fertilization occur? Fallopian tubes. Where is interstitial fluid found? In the tissues around cells. All of the following belong together except A. Ventricle, B. Alveoli, C. Atrium, D. Septum. Alveoli. Which part of the brain interprets sensory information? Cerebrum. What is the function of the stratum granulosum? Waterproofing the skin by producing lipid-filled vesicles that release a glycolipid by exocytosis. Where is FSH produced? Pituitary gland. Which structure controls the hormones secreted by the pituitary gland? Hypothalamus. What is the function of the dermis? To cushion the body from stress and strain and to also provide elasticity to the skin, a sense of touch and heat. What is urea made of? Carbon, nitrogen and oxygen found in the urine and sweat. What is the function of the stratum spinosum? Melanin is transferred to keratinocytes in the stratum spinosum to protect cells from UV rays, dysosomes. What is the large intestine's main function? The reabsorption of water into the body and the absorption of vitamin K. What does pulmonary veins do? Returns oxygenated blood to the left atrium. What are the three layers of skin? Epidermis, dermis, subcutaneous layer. What does pulmonary arteries do? The artery carrying blood from the right ventricle of the heart to the lungs for oxygenation. Which of the following best describes the relationship between circulatory and integumentary system? A. Removal of excess heat from the body, B. Hormonal influence on blood pressure, C. Regulation of blood pressure and volume, D. Development of blood cells within marrow. Removal of excess heat from the body. What is the function of the stratum lucidum? Responsible for skin's capability to stretch and degeneration of skin cells. What does connective tissue do? Binds and supports other tissues. How is meiosis similar to mitosis? Both occur in humans, animals, in plants. What are the 11 organ systems? Motor in CSI 1, muscular system 2, urinary system 3, respiratory system 4, digestive system 5, endocrine system 6, reproductive system 7, lymphatic system 8, nervous system 9, cardiovascular system 10, skeletal system 11, integumentary system. What organelle digests food for the purpose of obtaining energy? Mitochondria. The respiratory system oxygen and blank carbon dioxide. A. Inhales and exhales. B. Delivers and expels. C. Creates and absorbs. D. Exhales and inhales. Delivers and expels. Which component of the nervous system is responsible for lowering the heart rate? Parasympathetic nervous system. What bones enable finer and controlled movements for stability? Short bones. What bones are found between the flat bones of the skull? Suture, also known as wormine bones. The parathyroid hormone and calcitonin work together to control the level of A androgens in the blood, B calcium in the blood, C pepsin in the blood, D progesterone in the blood. Calcium in the blood. What is actin? Thin filament protein twisted into a double helix and appears like a double-stranded chain of pearls, contains the myosin binding site. What are purines and pyrimidines connected by? Hydrogen bonds. Examples of muscle tissue: skeletal, smooth, cardiac. What are examples of flat bones? Skull, ribs, sternum, hips, and scapula. What is expiration? Exhalation. Diaphragm relaxes and external intercostal muscles relaxes. What is a basal body? Is a eukaryotic cell structure consisting of a 9+0 arrangement of microtubule triplets. The basal body may organize the microtubule assembly of a cilium or flagellum and is structurally very similar to a centriole. Which of the following is not a function of pulmonary surfactant? A. Reduction of surface tension. B. Increase in lung compliance. C. Prevention of lung collapse. D. Decrease in lung compliance. Decrease in lung compliance. What is a urethra? Tube that carries urine from the bladder to the outside the body. Examples of epithelial tissues: squamous, cuboidal, and columnar. Name the valve that allows blood flow from the right atria into the right ventricle. Tricuspid valve. What does antibodies do to antigens? Attaches to neutralize. What are all the bone shapes? Long, short, sesamite, sutural, irregular, and flat. High levels of thyroxine will cause what? Tachycardia. Which hormone is produced by the pineal gland? A. Insulin. B. Testosterone. C. Melatonin. D. Epinephrine. Melatonin. What are sebaceous glands? Glands associated with hair follicles and secrete oil. When are the parasympathetic nerves active within the nervous system? A. When an individual experiences a strong emotion, such as fear or excitement. B. When an individual feels pain or heat. C. When an individual is either talking or walking. D. When an individual is either resting or eating. When an individual is either resting or eating. What is the most likely reason that cells differentiate? Simple, non-specialized cells can become highly specialized cells. What describes the structures found underneath each rib in descending order? Vein, artery, and nerve. An innate reflex to start breathing due to increased carbon dioxide levels. What are the 5 layers of the epidermis? Come, let's go see babe. 1. Stratum corneum. 2. Stratum lucidum. 3. Stratum granulosum. 4. Stratum spinosum. 5. Stratum basale. What is hemoglobin? An iron-containing protein on the erythrocyte that carries oxygen and carbon dioxide. What type of cell secretes antibodies? Plasma cells. Which blood vessel carries oxygenated blood back to the heart? Pulmonary vein. A part of which body system controls fluid loss, protects deep tissues, and synthesizes vitamin D? A. Skeletal, B. Muscular, C. Lymphatic, D. Integumentary. Integumentary. What is a genotype? Genetic makeup of an individual. What do flat bones do? Protect organs. Which structure has the lowest blood pressure? Vein. What do bones are embedded in tendons and protect them from stress and wear? Sesamite. What are Ecrine sweat glands? Most abundant sweat glands respond throughout life to body temperature elevated by environmental heat or exercise, found on forehead, neck, back, stabilizing body temperature. What is an osteoblast? A cell that secretes the matrix for bone formation. A substance is considered acidic if it has a pH of less than which of the following? A. 12B, 9C, 7D, 4. 7. What is the epicardium? Outer layer of the heart. In which of the following muscle types are the filaments arranged in a disorderly manner? A. Cardiac, B. Smooth, C. Skeletal, D. Rough. Smooth because no striations. What structure is the natural pacemaker of the heart? Sinoatrial node. Which of the following terms correctly describes the movement of air in and out of the lungs? A. Diffusion, B. Respiration, C. Ventilation, D. Oxidation. Ventilation. How many types of tissues are there in the human body and what are they? 1. Epithelial, 2. Connective, 3. Muscle, 4. Nerve. What are apocrine sweat glands? Mainly in the armpits, scalp, and the groin area. Contains bit of cytoplasm from the secreting cells continuously secrete a fatty sweat into the gland tubule. Where do the kidneys receive blood? Renal arteries. What are substances that stimulate adaptive immunity called? Phagocytes. What is needed for an experiment to be successful? Data that others can reproduce. Blocking pathogens that cause disease. A is circulatory, C is lymphatic, and D is reproductive. Where is the genetic information stored in the cell? Nuclei. Where is the high blood pressure in the kidneys? Afferent arterioles. Which of the following statements is correct about normal human lung anatomy? A. The right lung has 3 lobes and left has 2 lobes. B. The right lung has 2 lobes and left has 3 lobes. C. Both lungs have 2 lobes. D. Both lungs have 3 lobes. The right lung has 3 lobes and left has 2 lobes. What does nerve tissue do? In the development of genetic traits, one gene must match to one blank for the traits to develop correctly. A. Codon, B. Protein, C. Amino acid, D. Chromosome. Protein. What is the primary function of the spleen? Filters microorganisms and other foreign substances from the blood. A triple beam balance would show the units of measurement in which form? A. Liters, B. Grams, C. Meters, D. Gallons. Grams. What are examples of long bones? Femur, tibia, humerus, ulna, radius, clavicle, metatarsus, metacarpus, and phalanges. What is the function of the stratum corneum? Functions to form a barrier to protect underlying tissue from infection, dehydration, chemicals and mechanical stress. Examples of nerve tissue: nerve cells, fibers, neuroglia and dendrites. What has the least amount of sweat glands? Back and legs. The blood vessel containing the least oxygenated blood. Pulmonary artery. What is an osteoblast? Cell that breaks down bone. What are bone canaliculi? Microscopic canals between the lacunae of ossified bone that is filled with osteocytes. What is the function of the epidermis? Body's first defense against outside environment, produces vitamin D. What is a ureter? Tube that carries urine from the kidney to the urinary bladder. What does the medulla oblongata do? Controls breathing, heart rate, blood pressure, and swallowing. What are examples of irregular bones? Vertebrae, pelvis bones. What are the scientific method steps? 1. Observation. 2. Research. 3. Hypothesis. 4. Experiment. 5. Analyze. 6. Results. Which of the following substances is produced by the lung for the purpose of reducing surface tension? A. Sodium bicarbonate. B. Oxidase. C. Carbon dioxide. D. Surfactant. Surfactant. What is the parathyroid gland? Located behind the thyroid gland that is responsible for the metabolism of calcium, also part of endocrine system, also regulates the amount of phosphate in the blood by stimulating excretion of phosphates in the urine. Examples of connective tissue: bone, cartilage, tendons, ligaments, adipose tissue, and blood. What does epithelial tissue cover? All body surfaces, inside and out. Which of the heart chambers is the most muscular? Left ventricle. What does blood carry? Gases, nutrients, excretory compounds. Where is ammonia produced? GI tract. What are examples of sesamoid bones? Patella and pisiform. Which layer of the heart contains the striated muscle fibers for contraction of the heart? Myocardium. Low levels of thyroxine will cause what? Bradycardia. What is inspiration? Inhalation. Diaphragm contracts and external intercostal muscles contract. What does the bulbourethral gland do? Secretes a clear mucus before ejaculation that neutralizes acidic urine remaining in the urethra. What is the function of the stratum basale? Attaches epidermis to basal lamina, has melanin that protects against UV rays. What is cortical bone? The compact or dense bone found on the outer surfaces of bone, connective tissue. Which of the following best describes the careful ordering of molecules within solids that have a fixed shape? A. Physical bonding. B. Polar molecules. C. Metalloid structure. D. Crystalline order. Crystalline order. What structure releases hormones that stimulate the gonads during puberty? Hypothalamus. What is the endocardium? Inner layer of the heart. What are examples of short bones? carpals and tarsals. What is myosin? Thick filament protein with a head and elongated tail. The heads form cross bridges with the thin filaments during muscle contraction. What does muscle tissue do? Contracts to cause movement. What bones are found between the flat bones of the skull?